The lawyer's voice shook as he read the final line. "And to the young sales girl who fed me when I had nothing, I leave my name, my houses, my companies, and my entire fortune." The room exploded. Chairs scraped back, a woman screamed, cameras flashed, men in expensive suits stood frozen, their mouths open. On the front row, powerful relatives who had come confident and smiling now stared like people who had been slapped awake from a dream. At the center of the chaos stood an 18-year-old girl who did not belong there. Her name was Amara Brown. She wore a simple borrowed dress faded at the seams. Her caramel skin glowed softly under the courtroom lights, and her natural hair was packed into a neat bun just as she always wore it for work. Her hands shook as she clutched the strap of a small, worn handbag. Her eyes searched the room, confused and frightened. Everyone was staring at her. "What is this nonsense?" a man shouted. "Who is she?" Amara felt her knees weaken. She had not come to claim anything. She had only come because the old man's driver had insisted. He said it was important. He said the late Mr. Theodore Williams had mentioned her name. The billionaire. The crippled old beggar. The man everyone thought was mad. Before Amara could speak, the lawyer raised his hand. "Please remain calm." Mr. Williams was very clear. "This young lady is not only the sole heir to his estate, he also legally adopted her 3 months ago." The room went silent. "Adopted?" Amara's breath caught in her throat. She turned slowly as whispers filled the air like buzzing flies. "That's the girl. The one from the supermarket. The orphan. She used to feed him." "Feed him?" Amara's mind spun backward, away from the bright lights and angry faces, back to the dusty streets where her life truly lived. Back to the day she gave away her only meal. Back to the old beggar everyone avoided. Back to the mistake or miracle that changed everything. And just as she took one shaky step forward to speak, a woman in black stood up, her eyes burning with hatred. "This is a lie," the woman said, "and I will destroy her." Amara froze. She had no idea that the real battle was only just beginning. 3 months earlier, Amara's world was very different. Every morning before sunrise, she woke up on a thin mattress in the back room of a small apartment she shared with 2 other girls. The room smelled of soap, damp clothes, and hope that refused to die. She washed her face with cold water, tied her natural hair into a tight bun, and wore the same simple clothes she owned, clean but old. She was an orphan. Her parents had died when she was 9. Since then, life had been a long road of survival. No rich uncles, no miracle helpers, just hard work, hunger, and prayer. At 18, she worked as a sales girl in a small neighborhood supermarket. She stood on her feet all day, smiling at customers who barely noticed her, arranging shelves, counting change, and saying, "Have a nice day," even when her stomach growled. Her boss was not cruel, but he was not kind either. Lunch breaks were short, food was expensive. Most days, Amara survived on 1 meal. That day, she had bought a small plate of rice with the last money in her pocket. It was supposed to be her only food until night. She stepped outside during her break and sat on a low concrete block near the roadside. That was when she saw him. The old beggar sat a few meters away, half hidden under a broken umbrella. His legs were twisted and useless, his clothes dirty and torn. His hair and beard were white and untrimmed. Many people passed him every day, dropping insults instead of coins. "Lazy old man. Go and work. God punish you." Amara had seen him before, everyone had. But that day something was different. He was shaking. His eyes were closed, his lips pale. The bowl in front of him was empty. Amara looked down at her food. Rice steaming warm. Her stomach tightened. She had worked 8 hours for that meal. If she gave it away, she would go hungry again. She looked at the old man. Then she stood up. "Sir," she said softly. He opened his eyes. They were sharp and deep, not dull like people expected. He looked at her as if he had been waiting. "Are you hungry?" she asked. He nodded slowly. Without another word, Amara placed her food in front of him. "Please eat," she said. "I can manage." The old man stared at the plate, then at her face. His eyes filled with something close to tears. "Why?" he asked. "You look like someone who has little." Amara smiled gently. "I know what hunger feels like." He ate slowly, carefully, like someone who had forgotten the taste of kindness. When he finished, he looked up at her again. What is your name, child? Amara. And do you have parents? She shook her head. He closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, his voice was steady. Then may God remember you, Amara. She nodded, stood up, and returned to work, her stomach empty but her heart strangely full. She did not know she had just fed a man who owned more wealth than everyone in that street combined. She did not know he had no children. She did not know he had been searching for years for proof that kindness still existed. And she did not know that someone had been watching them from across the road. Watching, listening, and planning something dark. As Amara walked back into the supermarket, the old man smiled faintly to himself. For the first time, he whispered, I have found my daughter. And somewhere nearby, a car engine started quietly, carrying a secret that would soon turn Amara's life upside down. From that day on, the old beggar began to appear more often. Every afternoon, just before Amara's lunch break, he would be there at the same spot by the roadside, his broken umbrella leaning against his shoulder, his crippled legs stretched out in front of him. At first, Amara thought it was a coincidence. The city was busy and beggars stayed where people passed. But the way he watched her quietly, thoughtfully made her uneasy. Still, she greeted him politely whenever she could. Some days she had nothing to give him. On those days she felt ashamed, but the old man never complained. He would smile and say, You have already given enough. Other days, when she could spare a piece of bread or a small portion of food, she shared it with him. She never told her roommates, she never told her boss, it was not something she did for praise. One afternoon, rain poured heavily. Customers rushed in and out of the supermarket, soaked and angry. Amara worked non-stop, wiping shelves, packing groceries, her feet aching. When her break came, she stepped outside and stopped. The old man was still there. Rain soaked his clothes, his umbrella had collapsed, he was shivering badly. Without thinking, Amara removed her thin cardigan and placed it over his shoulders. You'll fall sick like this, she said. He looked up at her, surprised. And what of you? She shrugged, I will dry. He laughed softly, You are a strange child. That was the first day he asked her to sit with him. They talked in short sentences. He asked about her life, her work, her dreams. She answered simply. She told him she wanted to finish school one day. She told him she wanted a small business, maybe a shop of her own, nothing big. He never spoke about himself. Not his past, not his family, not his name. People around called him Mad Old Theo or Crippled Beggar. Some said he had once been rich and lost his mind. Others said he was cursed. Amara never asked. Weeks passed. One evening, as Amara closed late, a black car waited across the road. The driver stepped out well-dressed, his posture respectful. Customers stared. He approached the old beggar and bent slightly. Sir, it is time. The beggar nodded. Amara watched in shock as the driver carefully helped him into the car. Her heart raced. The next day the old man was gone. For 3 days Amara searched for him after work. His spot was empty, the broken umbrella was gone. She felt a strange sadness, like losing someone she never truly knew. On the 4th day, her boss called her into the office. There's someone asking for you, he said, frowning, a very important man. Amara stepped out and froze. The same black car. The driver smiled politely. Miss Amara, my employer would like to see you. Fear crept into her chest. Did I do something wrong? No, he said, you did something right. Before she could ask more, the car door opened. Inside sat the old beggar. But he was no longer a beggar. His beard was trimmed, his clothes were clean and expensive. A blanket covered his crippled legs, his eyes were sharp and calm. Amara's mouth opened, but no words came out. Come, child, he said gently, sit with me. She did. The car drove off. My name is Theodore Williams. He said, I am not what people think. She swallowed hard, you're rich. He nodded, very. Her hands trembled, then why were you begging? Because I wanted to know who people truly were, he replied, not who they pretended to be. She was silent. I have no wife, no children, he continued. I lost them many years ago. Since then I have lived surrounded by money and lies. He looked at her. Until you gave me your only meal. Tears filled Amara's eyes. I didn't know. That is why it mattered, he said. He offered her help, school, a better job, a place to stay. Amara refused at first. I don't want charity. He smiled. Neither do I want family. She did not understand then. She only knew her life was changing. What she did not know was that his relatives had already noticed her. And they were not happy. That same night, a woman stared at Amara's photo on her phone and clenched her fists. No orphan girl, she said coldly, will steal what belongs to us. Amara did not sleep that night. She lay on her thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft breathing of the two girls she shared the room with. Her mind replayed everything again and again: the black car, the old beggar's clean face, his real name, his calm voice when he said he wanted family. Billionaire. The word did not fit into her life. She woke up before dawn and went to work as usual, hoping everything would feel normal again. It did not. At the supermarket, customers looked at her differently. Someone had talked. Someone had seen her step into the black car. Whispers followed her between the shelves. Isn't that the girl? They say she knows a rich man. She must be pretending. Amara kept her head down and worked. She told herself nothing had changed. She was still the same orphan sales girl trying to survive. But by midday, the black car returned. This time her boss did not hide his excitement. He straightened his shirt and smiled too much. Amara, he said loudly, your guest is here. The driver led her outside. Mr. Theodore Williams waited inside the car. Come with me, he said gently. I want you to see something. She hesitated. I still have work. I spoke to your boss, he replied. You are excused. The car drove through parts of the city Amara had only seen on television: tall buildings, quiet streets, guards at gates. They stopped in front of a large house. No, an estate. Amara's heart pounded as she stepped out. Inside, the house was quiet, cold, and empty, beautiful but lonely. This is where I live, Theodore said, too big for one old man. She walked slowly, afraid to touch anything. I want you to move in, he said. Her head snapped up. Sir, I can't. You can, he said calmly, and I want you to go back to school. I will take care of everything. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Why are you doing this? He looked away for a moment. Because I buried my daughter 20 years ago, and when you fed me I felt like she was speaking through you. Amara covered her mouth, crying softly. She agreed to visit sometimes. She agreed to let him help with school. But she did not know that papers were already being prepared. Legal papers. Adoption papers. That same evening, Theodore sat with his lawyer. I am sure, he said, she is my child now. The lawyer nodded. Your family will not like this. They never liked me either, Theodore replied. Across town his relatives gathered. They had heard everything. The woman in black slammed her hand on the table. He has lost his mind, an orphan sales girl. A man laughed bitterly. She is playing him. Another voice said quietly, or she is exactly what he has been looking for. The woman's eyes narrowed. Then we remove her. Days later, Amara noticed strange things. A woman followed her from work. A man asked questions about her at the supermarket. Someone warned her to stay away from rich people's trouble. She told Theodore. Do not be afraid, he said, I will protect you. But even he did not know how far his family was willing to go. One afternoon, Amara returned to her apartment to find her door open. Her bag was missing. Her documents were gone. And on the floor lay a single note. Leave him or lose everything. Her phone rang. It was Theodore's driver. Miss Amara, he said urgently, Mr. Williams has collapsed. The line went dead. Amara ran. She did not know that this moment would decide her future. And she did not know that the next choice she made would change her life forever. If this story is touching your heart so far, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. Share it with someone who believes kindness still matters. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Amara did not stop running until her lungs burned. She reached the hospital just as nurses rushed a stretcher through the entrance. The old man lay still, oxygen mask over his face, his eyes closed. Machines beeped softly, steadily, like a fragile reminder that life was still there. "Sir," Amara cried, trying to reach him. A nurse stopped her. "Family only." "I am," her voice broke. She did not know what to say. "Daughter, orphan, sales girl." Before she could finish, the driver stepped forward. "She is family," he said firmly. They let her through. Theodore was taken into a private room. Doctors spoke in low voices, using words Amara did not fully understand. Stroke, stress, weak heart. She sat beside him, holding his cold hand, whispering prayers she had learned as a child. Hours passed. Outside the room, his relatives arrived. They filled the hallway with expensive perfumes, sharp whispers, and cold stares. The woman in black stood at the front, her face calm but her eyes cruel. "So," she said when she saw Amara, "you finally showed your true colors." Amara stood slowly. "He is sick, please lower your voice." The woman laughed softly. "You think you belong here, this is family business." "He invited me," Amara replied, her voice shaking but firm. The woman stepped closer. "Listen carefully, girl, when he dies, and he will, you will leave with nothing." Amara's heart pounded. "I didn't ask for anything." "That's what they all say," the woman hissed. The lawyer arrived shortly after. He spoke quietly with the doctors, then with the family. The woman in black watched Amara the entire time, as if memorizing her face. Late that night, Theodore opened his eyes. Amara leaned forward instantly. "Sir, you scared me." He smiled weakly. "You came." "Yes," she whispered, "I'm here." He squeezed her hand with surprising strength. "Good." The woman in black stepped forward. "Uncle, you need rest, this girl should go." Theodore turned his head slowly. His voice was soft but firm. "She stays." The woman froze. "I want my lawyer," Theodore continued. "Now." The lawyer returned to the room. Theodore spoke clearly, every word measured. "If anything happens to me, everything stands, no changes." Amara's breath caught. The woman's face hardened. She turned and walked out without another word. That night, Amara slept on a chair beside Theodore's bed. She did not know that while she watched over him, someone else was watching her. The next morning, the doctor gave hopeful news. Theodore would recover, but slowly. As they prepared to leave the hospital, a nurse pulled Amara aside. "Be careful," the nurse whispered. "Not everyone wants him alive." Amara felt a chill run through her. Outside, the black car waited. Inside it, safety waited. Or so she thought. As the car drove away, another vehicle followed at a distance. And for the first time, Amara realized that kindness had pulled her into a world where danger wore expensive clothes and smiled politely. She looked at Theodore, sleeping peacefully beside her. "I won't leave you," she whispered. She had no idea how much that promise would cost her. Life inside Theodore Williams' estate was nothing like Amara imagined. It was quiet, too quiet. The house was always clean, the floors shining, the air smelling of polished wood and expensive flowers. Staff moved gently, speaking in low voices as if noise itself might break something fragile. Amara felt like a visitor in a museum. Theodore insisted she move into a small guest room close to his. "So I can hear your footsteps," he joked. "They remind me I'm not alone." She helped him through recovery, reading to him, reminding him to take his medicine, listening to stories he never told anyone else. Stories about losing his wife in a car accident, about a baby girl who lived only a few years, about decades spent building wealth but losing joy. "You can buy many things," he said one evening, staring out the window, "but you cannot buy family." Amara listened quietly. She never pushed, she never asked for anything. That was what scared his relatives the most. The adoption papers were finalized without drama, no celebration, no announcement. Just signatures. From that moment, Amara became legally his daughter. And from that moment, the attacks grew bolder. At first, they were small. A maid whispered lies about Amara stealing jewelry. A guard accused her of sneaking calls late at night. Staff who once smiled now watched her carefully. Then the accidents began. One afternoon, Amara slipped on the stairs and nearly fell. Later, she noticed water had been spilled and not cleaned. Another day, her room was searched while she was away. Her few belongings were scattered on the bed. She reported everything to Theodore. He sighed deeply. They want to scare you away. I'm not scared, Amara said, though her hands trembled. That night Theodore called a family meeting. They gathered in the large living room, men and women dressed in dark colors, their faces stiff with forced respect. This ends now, Theodore said calmly. Amara is my daughter. Anyone who disrespects her disrespects me. The woman in black spoke up. You are being manipulated. Theodore's eyes hardened. Leave my house. Gasps filled the room. You can't be serious, she said. I am, he replied. All of you leave. They left that night. But peace did not come. Days later, Theodore fell sick again. This time it was worse. Doctors were confused, his symptoms did not add up, blood tests were ordered, private specialists were called. Amara stayed by his side, refusing to leave. One evening the doctor pulled her aside. There are traces of something in his system, he said quietly, something he should not be taking. Amara's heart dropped. Poison. We are still investigating, the doctor replied. Fear gripped her like a tight fist. She remembered the nurse's warning. Not everyone wants him alive. That night Amara could not sleep. She walked through the hallway and stopped when she heard voices from the kitchen. Two staff members whispered urgently. They said it would be enough to weaken him. She's always around, it's getting difficult. Amara stepped back silently, her heart pounding. Someone was trying to kill him. And someone inside the house was helping them. She returned to Theodore's room and sat beside him, holding his hand, tears falling silently. I won't let them take you, she whispered. Theodore stirred and opened his eyes slightly. Amara. Yes. If anything happens to me, he said weakly, promise me you will stand your ground. I promise, she said. He smiled faintly, then everything I worked for was not in vain. Amara did not know that within days, that promise would be tested in ways she never imagined. And she did not know that the people who wanted her gone were already planning their final move. The doctors confirmed it 2 days later. Someone had been slowly poisoning Theodore. Not enough to kill him quickly, just enough to weaken him, confuse his body, and make his death look natural. When Amara heard the words, her legs gave way and she sat heavily on the hospital chair. Her chest felt tight, as if the air itself had turned against her. Who would do this? She whispered. The doctor looked at her carefully. Only someone with regular access. The answer was clear. Family staff, people who smiled during the day and planned in the dark. Theodore was moved to a more secure wing of the hospital. Private guards were posted. His food and medicine were monitored closely. The poison was stopped, but the damage had already been done. His body was weak, tired from fighting too many silent battles. One evening, as rain tapped against the hospital windows, Theodore asked for Amara to come closer. My child, he said softly, listen to me. She held his hand tightly. You will be fine, the doctor said. He shook his head gently. I know my body. Tears filled Amara's eyes. Please don't talk like that. He smiled. You fed me when I was nothing. You gave me dignity when I had lost it. You gave me a reason to live again. He paused, catching his breath. And now you must be strong. That same night the lawyer arrived quietly. Theodore spoke for over an hour, his voice weak but steady. Amara sat nearby, her heart pounding with every word. When it was done, Theodore closed his eyes. He never woke up again. The news broke before morning. The billionaire philanthropist, the mysterious beggar, dead. The hospital filled with reporters, headlines spread like wildfire. His relatives appeared in black clothes, crying loudly for cameras, their grief practiced and loud. Amara stood quietly in a corner wearing a simple black dress. No makeup, no jewelry, just tears she did not try to hide. At the burial, people whispered openly. That's the girl. The one who tricked him. They say she was adopted. No blood, no right. Amara heard everything. She said nothing. After the burial, she was told to attend the reading of the will. She almost did not go. Fear told her to run, to disappear, to go back to her small room and simple life. But she remembered her promise. Stand your ground. The lawyer's office was packed. Relatives sat confidently, already discussing who would take which property. Some laughed quietly. Some glanced at Amara with open hatred. The lawyer cleared his throat. I will begin. As he read, faces changed. Houses given away, companies transferred, trusts established. Then came the final part. To my daughter, Amara Brown, whom I legally adopted, I leave everything else. The room erupted. This is fraud. She manipulated him. She doesn't belong. The woman in black stood up, her voice sharp. We will challenge this in court. The lawyer nodded calmly. You may try. Amara's hands shook, her ears rang, everything felt unreal. Then the lawyer raised his hand again. There is more. The room fell silent. In the event of my death by unnatural causes, all challengers to this will forfeit their claims entirely. Murmurs spread. The lawyer looked directly at the woman in black, and evidence has already been submitted. Faces went pale. Police officers stepped forward. The woman in black backed away slowly. This is a setup. Amara's breath caught, she finally understood. Theodore had known. He had prepared for everything. As officers began questioning people, Amara stepped outside, the noise fading behind her. She felt empty, broken, relieved, afraid. She had everything now. But she had lost the one person who gave her family. As she stood alone, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered slowly. A voice whispered, "You think it's over." The call ended. Amara stared at the phone, her heart pounding. The battle was not finished. If this story has kept you on edge, take a moment now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness still matters. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. After the reading of the will, Amara did not return to the estate. The lawyer insisted she stay somewhere safe. The police advised the same. Too many threats, too many angry people who had just lost everything. So she was taken to a quiet house outside the city, guarded day and night. For the first time since Theodore's death, Amara was alone. No hospital machines, no whispers, no courtroom noise. Just silence. At night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying his voice in her head, the way he smiled, the way he called her my child, the way he trusted her more than anyone else in the world. She had everything now. But she had never felt so empty. In the days that followed, the truth came out slowly. One of the kitchen staff confessed. Promises of money, threats, instructions passed quietly through phones and envelopes. The poison had been added in tiny amounts, always at night. The woman in black was arrested. So were two others. The news spread everywhere. Billionaire poisoned by family. Orphan sales girl inherits empire. Some people called Amara lucky. Others called her dangerous. Online, strangers argued about her, some praised her kindness, others accused her of manipulation. Amara did not read the comments. She focused on one thing only, finishing what Theodore started. She returned to school. She attended meetings she barely understood, listening more than she spoke. She wore simple clothes even when surrounded by luxury. And slowly, people noticed something strange. She did not act like someone who stole wealth. She acted like someone protecting a gift. One afternoon, she asked the lawyer a question that surprised him. Which charities did he support the most, she asked. The lawyer blinked. Children's homes, orphanages, education funds. Amara nodded. I want to visit them. The visits were quiet, no cameras, no announcements. At one orphanage, a little girl clung to Amara's hand and asked, Are you rich? Amara smiled softly, Not like you think. That night she sat alone and cried for the first time since the burial. Not loud, not dramatic. Just tears falling quietly, like rain that finally found the ground. She whispered into the darkness, I hope I'm doing this right. Weeks later a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Amara, months earlier, handing food to the old beggar by the roadside. Taken from a distance. Her hands began to shake. At the back of the photo were 4 words written neatly. She should have walked away. Fear crept back into her chest. Someone was still watching. She took the photo to the police immediately. They investigated, but nothing came of it. No fingerprints, no camera records. Whoever sent it wanted her afraid. For the first time, Amara questioned everything. What if kindness had truly put her in danger? What if Theodore's enemies were not finished? That night she dreamed of the old man. He stood by the roadside again, smiling, holding out the empty bowl. When she woke up, her heart was calm. She understood something clearly then. She could not undo what she had done. And she would not regret it. The next morning, Amara made a decision. She moved back into the estate. Not as a frightened orphan, but as Theodore Williams' daughter. At the gate, reporters waited. Cameras flashed. "Do you regret helping the beggar?" one shouted. Amara stopped. She turned. Her voice was steady. "No," she said, "I would do it again." She walked inside and closed the gate behind her. Inside the house that once felt cold and empty, Amara stood still for a moment. Then she whispered, "I'm home." She did not know that the final test of her strength was still ahead. But she was no longer afraid. Because kindness had already changed her. And it was about to change everything else too. The first night Amara slept in the estate again, she dreamed peacefully. No fear, no running, no shadows. For the first time since Theodore's death, her heart felt steady. Morning came with soft sunlight filtering through the curtains, birds sang in the garden Theodore loved. The house no longer felt empty, it felt awake. Amara rose early and walked through the halls, touching the walls gently as if greeting an old friend. She stopped at Theodore's study. Everything was still there, his books, his chair, his walking stick beside the desk. She sat in his chair and closed her eyes. "I will protect what you gave me," she whispered. That same day, Amara made her first public decision as the heir. She announced the creation of the Theodore Williams Foundation. Its mission was simple: to support orphans, struggling youths, and people living with disabilities, especially those ignored by society. People were surprised. Some expected her to sell everything and disappear. Others expected revenge. Instead, she chose purpose. At the first foundation event, Amara stood on a small stage. She wore a simple dress, no diamonds, no designer labels. Her voice was calm but firm. "This foundation is not about wealth," she said. "It is about remembering people." She told them about hunger, about loneliness, about how easy it is to walk past suffering. She did not mention the poison, she did not mention betrayal. She mentioned kindness. The audience listened in silence. From that day, public opinion slowly changed. The same people who once mocked her began to respect her. Business leaders saw her wisdom, communities saw her heart. But Amara never forgot where she came from. One afternoon, months later, she walked alone through the same neighborhood where she once worked as a sales girl. The supermarket was still there. So was the roadside. She stopped at the exact spot where the old beggar used to sit. Her throat tightened. She imagined him there, under the broken umbrella, smiling up at her. She placed a small bench there that day. A simple sign was fixed beside it. "This seat is for anyone who needs rest." People began to use it. Old men, tired women, street children. And quietly, kindness continued to move. Years passed. Amara finished school. She grew into her role, not loud, not proud, but steady and wise. She adopted children of her own, orphans like herself, giving them what she once lacked: safety, love, and dignity. On the anniversary of Theodore's death, she stood before his grave with fresh flowers. "You found me when I didn't know I was lost," she said softly. "Thank you for seeing me." As she turned to leave, a young sales girl approached shyly. "Ma," the girl said, "there's an old man outside, he's hungry." Amara smiled. She reached into her bag, then stopped. Instead, she said, "Come, let's eat together." And as they walked away, the wind rustled through the trees, almost like laughter. Kindness had gone full circle. Not as a reward, but as a legacy. If this story touched your heart, take a moment now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness still matters.